The difference between Australia and Japan. In Japan, I never feel like I'm gonna get punched in the face, which is nice. As closed as Japan is kind of perceived, people talk about how like they can't be themselves in their home country and they've come to Japan, and Japan is kind of like a refuge for them. Japan is a land of opportunities. All the things that I value the most in my life is because of Perfume.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, subscribing is the best way to support us. It helps us grow and bring you new stories from life in Japan. All right, let's jump in. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and today I have the pleasure to welcome Will. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You came all the way from Tokyo, where you work as a content creator by night, but by daytime you work in digital marketing for Japan Gay Guide. It's an online platform that promotes a lot of LGBTQ plus activities throughout the countries. A lot in Tokyo, I must say. So maybe there's a lot more that you're working on beyond the city. We'll kind of hear out a little bit what brought you here, your journey, and kind of what the LGBTQ society looks like today. Thank you so much. And like with all my guests, I'm curious a little bit about the beginning. You only came in 2024, I think. What kind of spurred the move 2 years ago?
Oh gosh, okay. It's kind of like a long story how I ended up in Japan. Basically, like when I was in high school, well, when I was a kid, I wanted to learn another language. Mm-hmm. My mom found Chinese classes because Chinese is a very popular language to learn in Australia. But when I got to high school, unfortunately, they didn't have Chinese. They only had Japanese available. So I started learning Japanese. And then I went on exchange to Kagoshima for 3 months. And that really even though it was such a short period of time, that kind of like gave me the bug for Japan. And it kind of always stuck with me from there. And I always wanted to come back to live here. But then in university, unfortunately, COVID. So I had applied and I got into Keio Daigaku, and then I couldn't go. But I kind of I still wanted to go, but then life happened, and like I got a full-time job, and I got a partner and stuff like that. And so I kind of put Japan dream aside for a little bit. But then like in 2024, my boyfriend was like, I can transfer from my job here in Australia to Tokyo. Cool. Do you want to come with me? Let's go. And I was like,
wow.
Like, absolutely amazing.
I want to go back to the beginning. You said that you first started studying Chinese, and then there was no more Chinese in high school, and you had the opportunity to do Japanese. Is that relatively common in Australia to have Japanese as a language option in high school? Or?
Yeah, it's really weird because in terms of the population, I would say there's actually not that many Japanese people in Australia in general, or in Sydney at least. But for some reason, like the 2 languages that they offer in high school, or 3, I should say, is like Japanese, Indonesian, and I think it's French. But like my school, like I went to a public school, like a really garbage public school, and it was just the only language they had available was Japanese. And all of our teachers weren't even Japanese, they're all white. But like it was the only thing that we had, and they were great, and we ended up learning Japanese with them. But you know, coming to Japan, I feel like my Japanese improved a lot more
than those high school years.
Yeah.
But you did mention you did an exchange for 3 months in Kagoshima. What was that experience like for you? This first kind of longer stay here in Japan?
Kagoshima. I always say it was one of the greatest things that I'd ever done in my whole entire life. Just because like my school had an exchange, but it was only like 2 weeks. And I really wanted to go for like an extended period of time and to not like a kind of mainstream area. So I said to my mom, I was like, can I do something different? Can I go somewhere else? And I found a company called Southern Cross Exchange. And I told them, I was like, I really want to go somewhere not Tokyo. And so they sent me to Kagoshima. And even though it was like a short period of time, it was such like a big moment for me because I was by myself. Well, I was by myself because I was with a host family, but my host family was wonderful. Going to school every single day, being like the only foreigner within like a 30-kilometer radius was like quite an experience.
Were you in Kagoshima city or in the area?
Literally like inaka, like I was in a small town called Myoenji, and it was like I don't know how to describe it. It was literally like there's houses and then just trees, and that's it. So if I walk down the street, people will be like, "What is he doing here?"
Was this your first trip to Japan?
I'd been once when I was 13, like a ski trip, as all Aussies do in Japan. And that was it, basically. I went to Tokyo, I went to Nozawa Onsen.
So you didn't want to go to the big cities, and suddenly you arrive in Myoenji, the small town in Kagoshima. You said you had a great host family, but what was it like when you arrived there? Were you expecting the area to be like that when you kind of were planning on not going to the mainstream areas, or was there an element of surprise too?
I think so. I think the reason why it was such like a big moment for me is because it was everything that I kind of had wanted. Like I'd gotten there and I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like in the middle of nowhere. Like these are real Japanese people. Like basically on the first day that I got there, I met my host family, and then my host brother took me out and we went and saw Kimi no Nawa in the theater, and there was obviously no subtitles, and I was terrible at Japanese at the time, so I was just sitting there like for like an hour and a half. But it was such like a big moment. I was sitting there and I was like, I'm watching this movie that everybody likes, and then like I was my host brother in Japan. What is going to happen? Like, what am I going to do? I was in what's it called, Kagoshima Chuo. Like there's like a plaza there. There's like a Ferris wheel on top. I always remember. And that was my introduction to Kagoshima.
How does it typically work with the host families? Are you introduced online before you go there, that you get to know each other a little bit? Or is it you arrive there and they drop you off in front of the door and like, hey, this is family so-and-so and have a good stay, and then...
Just like that. Literally, like we got off the plane and it'd be like, boom, and just send you there. But we had some contact before. I always remember crying while I was still in Australia because my host family had told me that they'd gotten tickets to my absolute favorite group of all time, Perfume, recently gone into cold sleep, unfortunately. But thank God I got to see them before they went into cold sleep. They got me tickets, and I thought, like at that time at 16, I was like, I'm never going to see Perfume because they're never going to come to Australia. But then they got me tickets and I was like, ah. So we had some contact beforehand, but like in terms of just like face to face, I remember my host brother, the first thing he said to me was like, you're not as fat as I thought you would be. I was like, oh my God. Because the photos that I had were when I was 15, and then I had like a growth spurt. So I kind of just stretched out a little bit, but I was like, yeah, not as fat. He said, I wish you were more fat.
Wow. What an introduction.
Oh, literally.
You just brought up Perfume, that you were 16 and they got you the tickets and you described it as your favorite group of all time. Perfume is one of those unique icons of the Japanese music scene. I think their rise to fame was kind of a bit maybe before your generation. So I'm kind of curious how you got into Perfume. How did you discover them, and what did you find so intriguing about them?
It was It's interesting because like even though Australia is really diverse, like where I grew up in Sydney wasn't very diverse, but I had this friend in primary school who introduced me to K-pop, and I started watching a show called SBS Pop Asia. And then from there, like I started to kind of figure out what I really liked, like in terms of music. I liked like pop or electro pop. And I asked this friend, I was like, oh, do you have any recommendations for like this kind of music? And then they recommended Perfume. And the first song I ever listened to was Fake It. And if you know that song, the intro is just like, da, 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 greatest thing ever. So hooked from that moment on. And Perfume's kind of the reason why I learned how to dance, and also the reason why I learned how to video edit. And then technically also the reason why, even though they had it in high school and I had to do Japanese, like I was already into Perfume before I started learning Japanese. So I was like, natural progression. So sometimes I think that Perfume is kind of the reason why I like all the things that I valued the most in my life is because of Perfume.
So how was it like for you to go to their concert?
The first time in Fukuoka, oh my God, I almost died. It was so funny because they weren't fan club members. We couldn't have been further back. We were actually the last row of I think it's Fukuoka Arena somewhere. I can't remember what it's called, but literally the back of the row. And I was underneath like a thing because I'm so tall. It was kind of like this. So when I jump, instead of jumping up, I was jumping down the whole time going, wow, screaming. It was such like a big moment for me. And then I also got to see, I had the opposite experience years later. I went to Barcelona and I don't know why I keep on seeing Perfume in weird places, but I went to Barcelona because they were playing at Primavera and I was the front row that time. And that was also the last time I thought that I would ever see Perfume because I didn't know if I was coming back to Japan.
Yeah. So Perfume kind of shaped a lot of your cultural interest in Japan too. You had that experience in Kagoshima 3 months, but then you went back and COVID and many things prevented you from coming to Japan. But 2024, with your partner, you decided to make the move again. Did you kind of, going to Japan as a high school student with a homestay is one mindset. Going there as a young adult and like planning to switch your career and such is something else. How did you approach it the second time around?
Oh, for 2024? Mm-hmm. Oh, God. It was such, I think, a whirlwind decision. I knew as soon as I got that, as soon as Aiden offered it to me, I was like, 100%, I'm going. And then I had to think, I have to quit my job and I have to move out of my apartment with Aiden. And then we have to move all the way to Japan where I can't, I'm unlike him, he's like set up with a working visa and things like that. I was there like working holiday, trying to find a job. So it was quite daunting, especially for my family at that time, because my brother was getting married, my other brother had a baby, and then I moved to Japan all in the same year. So like 2024 was like a big moment for all of us. So it was quite stressful, but it's the dream. So like, it was kind of like, you have to do what you got to do. And I was so happy when I got here.
On your first time around, you didn't want to be in the mainstream areas. This time around, Tokyo. Were you excited to go to the big city, or were you still like, I'd kind of still rather go to somewhere maybe less?
Interesting. I always wanted to, because now being an adult, I feel like because I lived close to Sydney, well, I didn't live close to Sydney Centre, but like kind of just outside of the suburbs. I was like, I'm young, I have to do big city life once. And so I was 100% down for Tokyo because it's like, how many people get to say like, I didn't just visit Tokyo, like I lived in Tokyo for an extended period of time. And I feel like unlike Sydney in terms of opportunities, Tokyo's a land of opportunities. And even though obviously it's quite hard for foreigners to make their way here, I kind of saw it as like, this is my opportunity to finally do what I've always wanted to do.
It was a bit daunting before going, as you just said. What was it like once you had everything packed, you're on an airplane and you arrive at Narita or Haneda airport and it's like, okay, now we're here. We have to make this work.
I remember like the day, because we got here in August. So it's like you get off the plane and you're like...
You're coming from winter in Sydney and you arrive in the worst months of the year in Tokyo.
And we had like Aiden's work put us up in a serviced apartment. So we'll basically get off the plane, get onto the train, and then just go to this serviced apartment in the middle of Ginza. And I don't know, I feel like at the time it never hit me. I felt like I was just like in autopilot mode. And I always thought that this was going to happen. So I guess it was kind of like thinking about something happening to you and then it actually happening. It kind of makes it easier, I guess. It didn't feel like a shock to the system. It was kind of like, I'm here and I'm ready. Everything after that sucked, but...
Tell me about it. What kind of happened after that?
It was like, I'm so stubborn. I really wanted to continue my career in Japan, but obviously I know that for foreigners, like that's a really difficult thing. And my Japanese level, I was there like, N2, look at me. And then I got here and N2 kind of meant nothing. And I was like, oops. Never mind. I need to get better. So like I had to what I would say is not the best Japanese skills mixed with like, I really want to do digital marketing in Japan. I don't want to halt my career. And that led to a year of joblessness, which wasn't very fun. And also working in a black kikyo for a little bit. That was fun.
What kind of black kikyo?
It was like they basically promised me a visa. And then after the 3 months, the day that they were like, we're going to give you a visa. And after like, we had a bit of like the manager was a hold and soul kind of person, like terrible manager. he was like, oh, actually, we're not going to sponsor your visa and you're fired. You can't come back. And I went, oh, wait, I have no more time on my working holiday, like visa extensions. I only have one more left and I'm going to get deported. Oh no. So that wasn't very fun. But then I found Japan Gay Guide after that. So it was kind of like my saving grace.
It was an entire year. You had a career kind of started out in Sydney in digital marketing. How did you balance this? You had this dream of coming here, facilitated in parts by your partner that had the opportunity to transfer. But then you also kind of have to transfer your own things, and you're struggling with finding jobs. And how did you experience the job market in general when you started looking here? You said that N2 wasn't enough, but it's still a pretty good level of Japanese.
Really?
More than most, I would say even. So kind of what was the experience like to navigate this?
Interesting. I have a lot of, I feel like, harsh emotions about that period of time, just because it just felt like constant failure. Which, yeah, it was hard to go through, but like in terms of what I did, like I was applying for jobs every single day. I was, every single job website, every single thing that I could possibly do. But I kind of shot myself in the foot at the same time by only, looking at all the possible jobs in my field.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously I think that it would have been easier if I just tried to do English teaching, but I was like, no, I can't do it. I want to do what I want to do. And I did in the end, but it was a very, very difficult thing.
So in the end, you found Japan Gay Guide, where you're working at now, an online platform that provides a lot of information about where to go, what events are happening for the LGBTQ plus community. Tell me a little bit about how you found them and how you kind of got into working with them.
What's funny, I initially did this. This is like right after I worked for the Black company. I was like, oh God, I went into overdrive, so I need to really apply for something. And I was just scrolling through Indeed. And I see this job and it says, digital marketing role. We need somebody who can film, edit, and sometimes be in videos. And I was like, oh my God. Because that year that I spent jobless, like that was kind of everything that I did. I was making content in Australia as well, but I really kind of, because I had nothing to do with my life, I was like, I've got to make, videos. I've got to make like my life have purpose. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I've been training for this moment my whole life, or for the last year, I should say. I'm ready. And I went into the interview, and during it, they were like, we actually do this thing called Japan Gay Guide. Like, would you be interested in that? And I always remember being like, well, I'm gay, so yes. And the rest is history. And like I literally showed up, like they actually hired me the day after. Like I had one interview, another interview, and then that second interview, they were like, you come back tomorrow, you can work full time.
Wow.
Instantly started.
And the visa is sorted and now you're settled.
Yes.
I want to talk a lot about what you do with Japan Gay Guide and the LGBTQ scene in general. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about you moving to Japan as an LGBTQ person, as a gay person, because Sydney is very open to this. I think you've got legalized same-sex marriage. You've got a big pride parade. In Japan, is maybe a little bit further behind. There are a lot of conversations here. I know that some parts of Tokyo, I think Shibuya allows same-sex partnerships, but it's otherwise relatively restricted, and a lot of people are vocal about this in their conversations, but a different environment in Sydney. What was it like for you moving here as someone who's very open about it and making content about it, to suddenly be in this new environment?
Interesting. Yeah, literally, it's interesting to go from Sydney where like you can see people holding hands and things like that. And like gay couples, you can like kind of just tell walking down the street, they're like, oh, and we've got like our gay district as well. And then you come to Japan and it's a little bit more muted. But I've always said like the good thing, the difference between Australia and Japan is that in Japan, I never feel like I'm going to get punched in the face, which is nice. Like, I feel like there's this sense of, even though like it's kind of like a don't ask, don't tell, like kind of culture, I do feel safe here. In Sydney, sometimes you can feel a little bit like physically unsafe in certain situations. Like my first date with Aiden, this is funny. I always remember we were standing, this isn't, like, oh God, I'm going to say a very bad word, but basically we were standing underneath the harbour bridge, and we were hugging, and it was very romantic. And then somebody on a boat going underneath the harbour bridge was like, bleep that out. And we both were like, but that would never happen in Japan.
No.
I don't think anybody's walking around being like, okama or something like that. I would be like, Japanese people don't do that. But at the same time, like obviously they don't have legalized gay marriage as well. So there's kind of the visibility is nice in Australia. Visibility here is almost non-existent. But then the safety is nice in Japan. Safety is not as nice in Australia.
It's interesting, right? How one of the more open countries and cities for the community is also one where you feel less safe than one that is kind of generally, okay, don't ask, don't tell, and everyone is okay with it kind of place. But that also means that in Sydney, I imagine you had places to go. You mentioned the gay neighborhood, or LGBTQ neighborhood, and a community and people that kind of talk about it openly, holding hands. How do you adapt to here? Did you find places? Did you find a community when you first came? Or was it something a little bit difficult where you felt more isolated as a gay couple?
As a gay couple, yeah, I think it's difficult because like I think I've got obviously a little bit of the gaijin kado in terms of I'm never really going to be able to fit in no matter what. So I always kind of had the mentality that I'm going to stick out. Whereas Aiden, my partner, he's half Thai and he's half Irish, so he can kind of blend in a little bit more, and he's very much more like salary man. He's got his suit on and stuff like that. So when we're out in public, we always look like we're going to two different events. But he always like never wants to do any like PDA or anything like that. So that's kind of like sad, I think, like kind of losing that, being able to go out in public and express that kind of thing. But I feel like Japanese couples don't really do that often anyway, so it's okay. I'm trying to think. As a gay couple, wait, what was the question?
If you found a community here and places to go to, to kind of mix and mingle, maybe with people that you can talk about it more openly than the general atmosphere of don't ask, don't tell.
Well, I think Nichome is very much like that, but I was never introduced to Nichome until I got the job, like with Japan Gay Guide. Like, even though it's obviously like all about advertising that area, I actually wasn't that privy to the area before then, because Aiden doesn't really like to go out to like clubs and stuff like that. So I had to kind of find friends. And then now that I have like my work friends, and then I have friends outside of that, like we're there every bloody weekend at this point. And that's been nice. Like to be able to, like every time I kind of leave, like last night when I was leaving Gay Town, I feel a little bit like, oh, like it's so nice to be surrounded by queer people all the time. And then you kind of leave and then you're like, no, everybody's straight again. No offense.
What was your experience like going there for the first time? How would you describe it to someone who's never been?
Oh, wow. I think so the first time I went was when I was with my coworkers from the Braku Kigyo. So they're all the three straight girls. Lovely. Love all of them. All foreigners. We all went to King and Queen, which is basically like they're across from each other. And it's kind of mainly popular with like foreigners living in Japan and then tourists. So the main language is always like English. And it was great. I remember just being like, oh, wow. Because I never really went out that much in Australia to Oxford Street, the gay town. And now that I'm older and a little bit more confident, I was like, well, it's time to do it. Tokyo, you got to make your dreams come true. And yeah, it was a bit overwhelming, but everyone's so nice. And as I said, in Japan, like there's always kind of that sense of safety all the time. So like it just felt safe. It felt easy. It felt like I was like, oh, well, we're all one big like community, one big family. This makes sense.
You mentioned that those two clubs, King and Queen, are primarily frequented by foreigners. Was it surprising to you to see that at least the openly LGBTQ community, queer community is more Western, at least at first sight?
Yeah, I think coming to know the area now, I think the one thing that I find not disappointing, but a little bit like, I hope, I guess, like with doing work for Japan Gay Guide, this is something that can kind of fix over time. But there seems to be like a very big divide between Japanese natives and their experience or what they do in Nichome versus like foreigners, kind of all in separate areas. Like some Japanese people are there, but they're usually Japanese people who can like speak English or have experience with foreigners. But yeah, very much two separate areas a lot of the time, which I wish wasn't the case. But at the same time, like language barrier is always a thing. So I can understand why they're not there as well.
There's a language barrier on the other side, but on the other side, there's also kind of the lack of barrier of the community, right? Do you feel, are there places in Nichome where they all mingle and the language is not an issue and it's just people sharing a sense of self, so to say?
I would say the area in general does do that. Like you see the crossover happening. Like when I go, like I can see people trying, and I think that's really nice. Like trying to, it doesn't matter who you are when you're there. Like everybody's kind of trying to communicate with each other because it's so global. So it's like, even if it's their native language is in English and they're a foreigner, like people are like Japanese people are trying with them, or people are trying with Japanese people, which I think is really nice to see. Great place to practice your Japanese as well, because a lot of people do come up and talk to you.
I can imagine. You then basically start frequenting the area, but also start working for Japan Gay Guide. So tell me a little bit about the Japan Gay Guide. How long has the platform been around? What are you really working on there?
It's been a few years now. I started in August of last year, and I've been working there since then. And I think that actually, I don't know when they started actually, the Japan Gay Guide account, but I think it's been going for about a year or 2 years. And kind of the mission of like Japan Gay Guide is to connect the queer community of Japan to the world. But at the same time, we also like to focus on supporting the voices of the queer community inside of Japan.
So you worked in digital marketing. You described the job listing as requiring video, filming and editing, as well as being willing to be in front of camera. So I imagine you started working there, you got a camera, and then you started documenting a little bit that community and sharing that with the world. Has this given you a new perspective on the places you maybe frequented in Nichome when you went there before personally, and now you went there to document and to kind of really observe what is really going on there? Who's attending? Who's coming?
Yeah, it's like having this kind of like insider access is crazy. Like the first time I had to film with Japan Gay Guide, like we have good relationships with a lot of the bars, and like sometimes we film in King during the day. So the majority of my time at the beginning of working for Japan Gay Guide was going to Nichome during the day. Only recently have started to like go out and like start filming videos at nighttime as well. But yeah, seeing it from the inside is great because we get to talk to the staff. The staff are obviously all living here. Like a lot of them are foreigners as well. So like I find that their stories and like their personalities are really interesting to listen to. Like, yeah.
We talked a lot about Nichome, but what about beyond that? Are there other areas in Tokyo or beyond, like here in Osaka or Fukuoka, where you kind of, you mentioned before for the concert, that you've also explored or talked about or started to research?
We started to research. I think like because Japan Gay Guide is really vamping up this year. I was literally talking about this today, actually. I really wanted to see, or I want to try and pitch like us coming to visit the Osaka gay bars, because I know that there is like a vibrant scene here, but I don't know much about it. And I really want to have that kind of like, I would love to capture that like firsthand experience, like seeing what it's like. And then, yeah, Fukuoka has it as well. And I think there's some gay scene in Sapporo.
Oh.
But I have never done any of them. So that's definitely like, it's on the list. I really, really want to kind of explore the queerness beyond Tokyo sphere.
You were talking about how one of the things you're doing is kind of getting the stories from those people. What kind of stories have you heard from people that may have been here for a longer period as well, and how they kind of describe the scene and the evolution of it?
It's interesting. Like there's so many people with so many different backgrounds. Like, because obviously we're filming, and like in Japan, like filming in public can be a little bit testy. There's been a few people that like I've talked to on the staff, and they talk about how like they can't be themselves in their home country, and they've come to Japan, and Japan is kind of like a refuge for them. They obviously can't be on camera because like they don't want to be outed or anything like that. But talking to them about that, it's like it's equally heartbreaking and heartwarming in terms of like, you can't be yourself. You have to kind of leave your home country to be able to be queer. But then now you've come to Japan of all places to find refuge as a queer person. And I think those kind of things are quite amazing. Like, obviously, those are the kind of things that we can't necessarily display on Japan Gay Guide. But like, for me as an individual, like hearing that, like, especially from like such a privileged background in Australia, to then hearing that, I'm like, I would never have been able to have that kind of insight if it wasn't for being able to go behind the scenes.
You mentioned that some of them, they don't necessarily want to be on camera because they don't want to be outed. Is this a conversation that you've had regularly, maybe also with members of the Japanese community, and how they are open about it or not so much in different ways than you're familiar with?
Yeah, it's interesting navigating it because like even some of my coworkers, like who are in lots of videos and stuff like that, some of their family members don't even know about it, I guess because they're not using social media that often. It's interesting to see how each person navigates this, because obviously from like my perspective, like I came out when I was like 17. It's not something that I've had to think, actually I was 11 to be honest, but then to my family at 17. But like it's not something that I've had to think about that often. So yeah.
You mentioned that the mission is to kind of also connect the Japanese community, the queer community, to the rest of the world. By putting out all the content, the articles, the videos and such, have you started building those bridges with the community back in Sydney or other places? And what kind of interest have you found from overseas into the Japanese queer community?
Well, shocking. This person who just joined us recently was said to my coworker, Pascal, that she's like famous in New York circles because she's done some like queer gaming videos, like where you go to like for like manga cafes, or if you want to like sit down and relax, like if you're a bit more quiet. And she's done videos like that. And then we've heard from our new coworker that that's something that's being shared overseas. Like, because I feel like we don't know about our impact because at the end of the day, it's still like a 9 to 6 job. So like, obviously, you know, it's the grind, like you're kind of like just going through the motions, and then you go outside and somebody's like, I'm from X country and I love like your content. The other day, me and my 3 other coworkers were sitting on the train, and we all got on the train and we sat down, and they were across from me, and I was with my friend here on this side, and this girl went and then just said nothing. And I was kind of like, what's going on? Something's happened. She definitely recognizes, but I'm wondering which one of us she recognizes. And then she just suddenly, after like a minute, I think she worked herself up and was like, I love you guys. Like I see you all the time on Japan Gay Guide. And she pointed to my friend and she was like, but I love you the most. And then she just hugged my friend in the train station. And so that kind of experience, it's like, I feel like it's still hitting us now that like we're doing something and like people actually do see what we're doing. I definitely want us to have like more of like a impact on like the Japanese community, hopefully, because we're getting some more Japanese talent in soon. But so far, like being able to hit like that international audience has been so fabulous.
How do you kind of plan out, or not so much as you were briefly mentioning before, but all the content, all the stories you want to share? How do you kind of pick and choose what kind of content you put out?
It's rapid. So it's like everybody can kind of, the good thing about Japan Gay Guide is that we're kind of jack of all trades. Like everybody's good at their thing. We can kind of all help each other. I've never been in such like a really like teamwork orientated team. I like, sorry, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. We all come up with the ideas together, but we do have somebody who specifically does like script writing, and then there's people who film and edit, and then there's talent as well. So we have a script usually, and we just like, we get the script, we check the script a few times, and then we go out and film. And the ideas usually come from just us. Like,
is that like on a daily basis nearly?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very much like, oh, we don't have a video for today. Think of one. And then if we're prepared, we'll be like, we have these 5 video ideas, or we have this script. Let's go out and film it.
A lot of work. And you mentioned you want to try to reel in the Japanese community too. Is there an online platform that is in Japanese that does something similar to what you're working on in English now?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Like, not something that we're doing. Like, we're doing obviously English and Japanese at the same time. And I've been trying to like, our team has been trying to figure out where they are. Like, where are the Japanese? It's usually X. Like, I feel like they're always on Twitter. which is a little bit of a scary land to try and navigate, I would say. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we might get there in the future. I think it's hard. I think like they are like Japanese people are definitely on Instagram, but the algorithm is so different. And it's like we've been trying to like do Japanese language with English subtitles recently and see how that goes. So I'm hoping that the audience gets hit.
So how do you balance now doing all this content, this research, sharing those stories at work, but also you mentioned you were doing your own content before even coming to Japan, and now you kind of have those two platforms and you're sharing life and insights into the queer culture here. How do you balance all of this?
Interesting. They've started to kind of like feed into each other. Like when I started, they were obviously both very separate, and I would try and do content on the weekend or outside of working hours. But my content is very much based on my lived experience. And now that like work is like what I'm doing the majority of the time, and like my friends that I'm making are all from work, they're kind of all interlocking. So it's been nice to be able to connect with these people as well. So like on our lunch break, I'll turn around and I'll be like, hey, come, like, let's film a video. I have this idea of this thing that happened to me the other day. Let's just film it. And I have a very much a quantity over quality kind of person. Just get out there. I sometimes just go, just film me right now. Let's do it. And I just film a video in like 5 minutes and then I'm done. Because I just want to I just want to be consistent. I just want to keep it going. And then luckily Japan Gay Guide is almost exactly the same thing. So it's like, just pump it out. Like try and, keep the ball rolling as much as you can.
You just said that your personal platform, you just kind of want to share your lived experience, but at work you kind of look at the experience of others and share those. Has kind of interviewing these people, sharing their stories, made you reflect a little bit on how kind of you came here and adapted and discovered everything and kind of gave you maybe new perspectives?
Yeah, I think that moving here in general was incredibly eye-opening, and then this job has obviously like expanded that even further. I always think about like before I came to Japan, like Australia is multicultural. Like when I walk down the street and I see somebody who doesn't look like me, I assume that they're Australian. But Japan is obviously doesn't have the same kind of mindset. But it was interesting, like interacting with people from different cultures. Like I used to have a coworker that was from Brazil, and talking to her and her telling me like how, if I wanted to buy an iPhone, it would take me a year to save up if I was working in Brazil. Japan is a land of opportunities. I was there like, oh, and I'm sitting here complaining about like, oh, well, in Australia, I get this wage. And like now I have to like, take the pay cut. Really opened my mind. Like, that's just kind of one of the examples of like, I don't know, Japan, as closed as Japan is kind of perceived, so I think that it's very like eye-opening to live here as well. I guess because you can kind of have access to a lot of different people.
Is it the same as well for your experience and reflecting on it as a gay person in Japan? That maybe if you compare your first trip to Kagoshima, I think you mentioned you came out when you were 17, so that was around the time of that trip, and now coming back as an adult and working in the scene, have you kind of are you looking at it differently now?
From back then, yeah, I would say it's kind of changed. Like that period of time, it was interesting on exchange. I always remember when they were preparing us for it, they would be like, what did they say? And I couldn't tell if this was pointed because I was there and they could tell, but I always remember them being like, just make sure you don't tell your host family that you're gay.
Oh. And
like they prepared us because they had like a situation in the past where somebody did come out, I think as a lesbian, and then the host family wasn't very happy about that. So I think that might be more of like a Kagoshima versus Tokyo kind of thing. But it's interesting, I think, now to come back during this period of time, because even this job, like this Japan Gay Guide job, or this job that's kind of talking about the gay community in Japan, I really don't think that if I was to come during when I was 16, that this would exist at all, especially with like a mainly, foreigner work base. So it's like interesting to see how, even though I think that Japan moves very, very slowly, they're still moving. Like things are changing.
Is this something that is being brought up sometimes, that you have this online platform that is driven by foreigners, but about the community here in Japan, that there's this kind of discrepancy maybe. Where are the voices of the Japanese community? Why are they not running the platform? And sometimes I see in comments of previous videos we've done with members of the LGBTQ community that, oh, they shouldn't bring these Western ideals to Japan. And we've had this very long conversation as well with Luna about the fact that, this has been here in Japan as well since forever, gay people, lesbian people. But is this a criticism that or that comes up sometimes with people kind of interacting with you and be like, why are foreigners talking about this in Japan? Why are the Japanese people not kind of voicing themselves?
100%. It's actually a criticism that I've even brought up like myself at work, because we didn't have that much power back like when I first started. There wasn't that many of us. We have our mama, we call her, even though she's 21, but she's basically like above all of us, and she's the greatest person in the entire universe. Thank you, manager San Ayano. She's basically our Japanese representative. But then you've got Winnie, who's Chinese, and then Pascal, who's from America, and then me from Australia. So definitely, as you were saying, like the Gaijin voice is a lot more like there's a lot more of us in the team. And I personally, I think that we should move in a direction where we're highlighting all voices, but particularly because we're in Japan, like we need to be obviously highlighting this perspective from a Japanese perspective, I should say. Because as you said, they have been here for a very long period of time. There is stories to tell. And I think that they're not telling the stories themselves. So the one hope that I can have, hopefully, from my position, is that I can go to them and then highlight or give that platform to these people, hopefully. And that's something that I think that we haven't been able to do yet, but something that I really wish that we would do coming soon.
So now you spend a lot of time in Nichome. You're quite familiar with the area. If someone listening to our conversation today, where would you recommend them to go to meet people, to kind of mingle, to find a community here in Japan, or specifically in Tokyo?
Oh, Nichome. I would say if you're like me and you're coming to Japan and you want to find like friends and things like that, if you mingle with people, like the two bars that I mentioned before, the King and Queen, because they're just right across from each other. I feel like that's a perfect place to start. It's kind of, I feel like quintessential first night in Nichome. I should always start, I feel like, with King and Queen, because they're non-paid like entry places. Like you can just walk in, you can walk out, you can go from one bar to another and stuff like that. And people are in the streets and stuff like that, unless the police come along. And then there's a few other bars near it. There's like, I like Kingdom. I think Kingdom is fun. They have the go-go dancers and like the drag shows. That's paid entry. And then Dragon Man is really funny to me, because I remember clubbing in Shibuya. I didn't realize that like the ladies, what is it? In this one club we went to, it was like 900 yen and 2 drinks for girls, and then 4,000 yen.
Wow.
I was like, I get all them, but what about me? Can't I go in the girls' line? No, I had to pay 4,000 yen, sadly. But Dragon Man is the opposite. It's like more expensive for the girls.
That's
and the
the
boys
first
get
time
more
I
drinks.
hear of that.
Right?
Wow.
Isn't it funny? But I feel bad because all my friends are girls, so I'm like, I don't want to forsake you like that.
So a few places to go. What about events? Are there large-scale events as well? Like at the beginning of our conversation, we talked about the Pride Parade in Sydney. Are there kind of larger Pride events as well that people can attend?
Yes, Tokyo Pride is coming up this year. I think Japan Gay Guide is going to do something. I don't know if I can say what we're going to do yet, but we're definitely going to be there in some capacity. Actually marched last year with Aiden's company, which was exciting. I think Japan Pride is very much more like kid friendly. It's not much of a protest. It's more of like just kind of like a celebration of the queer community in Japan. But I would 100% recommend everybody to go to Pride, even though it's like peak summer.
It's always in peak summer?
Yeah, last year I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. You're going to make me march on the streets.
Yeah. Maybe need to move this to more like fall, or when the months start cooling down.
Literally. Or spring, that'd be nice.
You've been living now here for nearly 2 years, have a job, you've managed to get your career set up in Japan in digital marketing. How do you feel about this? Is it like, okay, now we want to stay here longer, or is it still something that, okay, this is just an experience with your partner Aiden that you wanted to do, or how do you look at your life in Japan now?
I feel like I'm living the dream. If that's not too corny to say, like if I could imagine my life that I wanted to have when I came to Japan, the first year I was like, well, this is the opposite of what I wanted. But then I think that holding off and trying really, really hard got me to where I am now, which is like envisioning, like if I could envision the like absolute perfect job that I could have ever wanted to have when I was in Japan, it's the job that I have now. And then like doing content creation and things like that. Like I feel like I'm on hopefully like an upward trajectory, and I feel like there's so many opportunities still here in Japan. So I really want to kind of capitalize on that as much as I possibly can.
It's difficult to get started for many. The first year you came on a working holiday, just finding a proper employment and kind of get settled can demotivate quite a few people. Would you do it the same way around, or now with your experience of searching for jobs and having worked at the Braka Kigyo, would you do some things differently to kind of set yourself up if some people are now in a position where they're considering the same as you?
I wonder. I think I'm never somebody who regrets any decisions that I make. So I never think back and go, like, oh, I could have done this differently. That's only because I can't think of that. I don't know why. It doesn't really ever come up. But if I was to think about it, like, or if somebody else was doing it, I wouldn't recommend doing it the way that I did. I think it's better to be a bit more humble and try and do the things, like do the normal route. But if you want to do it like my way, just be prepared to be, what's the word? Not dehumanized, but like when you get beaten down, just be prepared for that. But it's really character building.
Well, certainly is. What are your plans next? You mentioned you want to explore the scene in Osaka. You want to kind of go beyond Tokyo. You want to connect more to the Japanese community. Do you have any big projects already that are coming up later this year?
I think our team, like Japan Gay Guide team, has just expanded. And then for my own content as well, like I want to start doing some more. Japan Gay Guide has really given me the confidence to talk on camera, which I had like an ability to talk, but not necessarily like to camera. And I feel like with this new team, like we're going to be able to do so much more because we have so many more voices, so much more ability to kind of spread our content. And yeah, I don't know, there's so much. Like I kind of am just kind of riding the wave at the moment. Like I think I'm a very much like here and now, like what's happening. Let's get it out today kind of person. So I'm just hoping that kind of trajectory will continue going on. Maybe I should start doing more things.
Any personal projects that are not with Japan Gay Guide that you have been dreaming about or trying to set up? Maybe have a video with Perfume one day, or
Perfume, please. I feel like I've wanted to start a YouTube channel for a long period of time because I feel like Instagram and like TikTok and things like that, it's a wonderful base. But like YouTube is where you can kind of like, I don't know, dig roots in rather than just have leaves. So I kind of want to start doing that. Like I've got so many good friends now, so I feel like I can really lean on people and be like, can you help me make this vision happen? Like make my dream come true. So that's kind of the next step for me, I would say, is I want to start doing YouTube.
Big projects with Japan Gay Guide, YouTube projects for yourself. A lot of things are coming day to day. Well, we covered quite a lot of topics in your journey and your experiences here. Is there anything that was maybe important to you that you would have liked to share and bring up today that maybe I didn't ask you about?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. What's kind of something that I feel like is important? Because we talked about so many good things. Like, I don't know. I just hope that like with what we were talking about, we've kind of already touched on it before, but I really, really want Japan to continue on this kind of journey of being more accepting and open to queer communities and also foreigners in general as well. I would love for kind of like I guess the Australian mindset and the Japanese mindset to kind of slowly move together in terms of being able to walk down the street and see somebody who's not necessarily looking like you and being like, oh, well, you know, like I can't just assume. But yeah, like I think that it's happening. I actually do have hopes with Japan. I think a lot of people move here and sometimes they get a bit beaten down by like the pace and paper. Like people don't love the paper here. The paper things, all of those paper stuff. But it is changing. And I think that if Japan Gay Guide is an example of that, or if you know, being successful with content creation, but being a random Australian in the middle of Tokyo is like a testament to maybe that, I hope.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming and sharing your stories and perspectives. We'll make sure that all the links are in the description so people can find you, reach out, but also kind of start following what you're doing with Japan Gay Guide. Maybe find resources for people that are looking for a community here in Japan. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Cool.
That was so fun.
I'm glad you liked it.